It's TK Friday, and today on The Joy of Editing, I'll be editing an image shot in Peru. This will be a full edit. Sit back, relax, and stay tuned. Hello everyone, and welcome to The Joy of Editing with Dave Kelly. It is TK Friday, and it's time for another full edit. This week, it's a color image that was shot in Peru. This image comes to us from Andres Juliao, and I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, Andres. Andres asked me not to share this image today, so I can't share it with you. I do have PDF notes that you can download for the image. Now, obviously, you won't be able to do the edit, but you might want those notes as reference, so I am providing them for you. By the way, if you have an image you'd like me to edit on a TK Friday, you can contact me. Just click on my Contact Me link in the description below this video, and we could talk about doing one of your images. And if you would like me not to share the image, just let me know that. And if you want me to share it, then you can give me that permission to share it. But that's totally up to you. And by the way, if you don't yet own the TK9 plugin for Photoshop, you can save 15% off the TK9 plugin for Photoshop, along with training videos. Use my promo code DK15. That gets you 15% off of everything. Not only are you saving money, but you're supporting the joy of editing with Dave Kelly when you use that promo code DK15. Thank you all for using my promo code. I really appreciate it. All right, then, let's dive right into this full edit. Now, as always, I start out here in Lightroom. I used a linear profile for Andres' camera. It was a Fujifilm X-T5, and I did some basic adjustments on here like I always do. I keep it relatively flat. I like a really flat image to go into Photoshop because I like to start that way, and I really enjoy using linear profiles. Now, if you don't have a linear profile for your camera, you could get them from Tony Kuiper. He gives those to you absolutely free, and I'll have links in the description right below this video for you. I didn't do a crop in this image. It's straight out of the camera. I think it looks really great. I really love this image. And then, by the way, I also, for detail, I didn't add any sharpening or any noise reduction because I ended up sending this image into Topaz Photo AI for noise reduction and sharpening. Then for lens corrections, I always check on remove chromatic aberrations and enable profile corrections, but that's all I did here inside of Lightroom. And now I just right click on the image, go to edit in Photoshop 2024, but hey, I'm already there. And I think you knew I was already going to say that before I said it. And here we are inside of Photoshop, ready to start working. And the first thing I like to do is balance and contrast. Now, last week I did something a little different on the black and white edit. I used the depth map to start out for background and foreground. It enables you to get some really nice depth into your image because things closer to you will have more contrast and more color. Things fade out as they go into the distance. So this technique's pretty cool, and I'm continuing to work with it to see if it's something I want to keep in my workflow. I really like it, and we're going to use that technique again today. And please leave me a comment. Let me know if you like this technique using the depth map for the opening start of this workflow. I'd like to hear from you. And also, please like, share, and subscribe. This really helps to grow my channel. And when you do that, you're supporting me, and I really appreciate it. And I thank each and every one of you. Now, for the first step, we need to go to the multi-mask panel. Right now, I have my Edit Blend Diff open here, so I'll click the X just to shut that. What you want to do is Command or Control click on this button. And when you do, this is going to pop up. And it's giving you a depth map. See, this is the depth map. This is the depth of the image. So we'll use that to help us create some distance in this image. And what we want to do is click Save as a Channel. So just click that, and you'll note down here in my channels, it is saved. And then what you want to do is just click on depth map and drag down to the plus and add another one. And now we're going to invert this because right now this is the background. And so we want this to be the foreground. So we'll click this button on our combo or CX panel to invert. And now it's inverted. And now I'm just going to double click on here and type FG for foreground. I'll double click on this one and type BG for background. So now I have a foreground and a background, and then you need to click on RGB to see your image again. And now we have those two channels saved, background and foreground. And that is what I like to call setting ourselves up for success. If you download the PDF notes, you will get this information exactly how to do it for your reference. I'll start out by doing balance and contrast to the foreground. So I'll click on my color grading tool, and now I'll come to your combo or CX panel and click on your layer mask calculator button. Don't you love the layer mask calculator? And then what you want to do is click FG for foreground and click this button to apply it. And you can see we have it right there. Now I'm going to start out with midtone. So I'm going to click on my midtone button, and I want to lighten my midtones. Now if you drag this to the right, you'll lighten your midtones. If you drag it to the left, you'll darken them. But I want to lighten mine, so I'm going to lighten mine up to right there, plus 33. And now I'll click on the shadow button, and I want to bring some contrast to the shadow, so I'll take this slider and start dragging it to the left, which will darken up the shadows to right there, minus 19. And now I do want to color grade that midtone a little bit, so I'm going to click this button right here. And this is nice. You see the tip of my cursor? Anywhere you click, you're going to drop a puck. Okay? And then you can click. If you want it green, you can make it green or blue or red, whatever you want. But I want mine right about here. But I'll tell you what, from my initial edit, I have a certain number in mind. This is a hex code. So if you click this field, I can paste in the number from my original edit. And I'll just do a Command or Control V to paste that in, and then you click this button to accept it. And that's the actual color grade I had. So now let me shut this layer off. Here's before, and here is after. And now I want to work on the background, so I'm going to click this plus. This will add another color grading tool. Come back to the layer mask calculator, click the button, click on background, and click this button to apply it. And again, I'll work with midtones and shadows, so I'll click on the midtone button, and I just want to lighten up the midtones a little bit to like right here, plus 13. Now, I want to apply that same color grade, so if I click here in this field and do a Command or Control V, I can put that same number in, click this button to accept it, and I have the exact same color grade. And now I'll move to shadow, so I'll click on the shadow button, and let's darken up the shadows. Now, when you drag the slider, you don't see a change until you release the click of your mouse. So I'm going to take this over to right here, minus 22. So now let me shut off the background layer. Here's before, and here's after. But you see we have that nice depth in the image. Now, I do also want to work on the sky. All we need to do is click this button, and Photoshop will select the sky. And then simply click the plus on the color grading tool, and now you have another color grading tool with only the sky because the mask is protecting the foreground. I'll start out with midtone, so I'll click on the midtone button, and I just want to lighten the midtones just a tiny bit to right there, plus 6. And then let me click on the highlight button, and I do want to lighten up the highlights too, right there, plus 22. Now I'll shut this layer off. Here's before and here's after. Now that sky looks a little anemic, so I think we could fix that right here with this color grading tool. So let's click on the midtone button, and here's what I did. I started to experiment, like I clicked here. See how I get some more blue in the sky, and I clicked here, and I thought, oh, it's looking better. And then I clicked here, and then I thought, well, I think I need to go a little bit more towards cyan, so I clicked over in here. And I started to really like it. But I'm going to go ahead and put the number in that I had on my notes. I'll just click this field and do a Command or Control V to paste that in there and click this button to accept it. And that's the color grade I had. Now that sky looks much better, and you can fix it right here with the color grading tool. Now at this point, I like to see where I've come from. So on the combo or CX panel, I'll click the overall before button. Here's the before and here's the after. So I really like the direction this is heading. And next up, I think I need a little bit of midtone contrast. I love midtone contrast, and if you do too, let me know in the comment section below. And it's real easy to do. Right now, we need to go up to the multi-mask panel, but we got the color grading tool in the way, so we click the X. Nothing changes on our color grading layers. And now click your luminosity mask button. And we have 3 midtones. Midtones 1, midtones 2, midtones 3. They're all midtones, they just keep getting lighter as they go. So I'm going to use the strongest midtone, 3. So I have midtones 3 selected, and now I'll click the curves adjustment layer button, and we'll output that mask to the curves adjustment layer. There's that mids 3 on there. I'll start out with the highlights. I'll start to pull this up to like right here. And now in this area, I'm going to pull my shadows down to like right there. Now let's shut this layer off. Here is before Midtone Contrast and here is after. I really love Midtone Contrast. And it is TK action time. If you don't have your TK actions open, you can just click the TK button, but mine are already opened here, so I'm going to use one of my favorites, Soft Pop. So I'm going to click this and look at that nice soft pop in the image. I'm going to shut this layer off. Here's before and here is after. Brings out some detail, pops the color, pops the contrast. I really like it, but now the image is a little darker than I would like it, so this is the way I'll remedy that. I'll come back and click on the luminosity mask button on the multi-mask panel, and this time I'm going to use Midtones 1. That's the darkest of the midtones. They're all, again, midtones, but this is a more subtle adjustment, and I love Midtones 1 whenever I want to just lighten up my midtones. So I'll use Midtones 1. Output it to a curves adjustment layer, and then simply click on screen, and voila, my midtones are lightened. I'll shut this layer off. Here's before and here's after. Isn't that cool? While you're editing your images, sometimes when you use an action or something like that, it may cause the image to get a little darker, but this midtones trick can really help you out with that Midtones 1 mask and a curves adjustment layer in screen blend mode. Give it a try if you haven't already. The next thing I'm going to do is something different, and I introduced this in last week's black and white full edit, and that is working with different zonal ranges and adjusting brightness, either making the zones lighter or darker, and also adding some contrast if needed. Let me show you what I mean. Come up to the multi-mask panel, click this button for blend if, and what I want to do is pick one of these zonal ranges. Now I'll use 3 of these ranges, and it varies from image to image if you need like zone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In this case, I'm only using zones 2, 3, and 4. So I'll click on zone 2. Now you can see all the light areas which represent zone 2. You can output this to any one of these adjustments down here. I'm going to use curves for the first one. Now, I can just click on curves and it will apply that mask to the curves layer. Or a little trick is, if you don't want a mask down there, hold your shift key down and click the curves button. It just adds a curves layer with that blend if on it for zone 2. And to darken it, I'm just going to use a blend mode, a darkening blend mode. I'll click on multiply, and you can see I've darkened zone 2, but that's way too much. So what I'm going to do is take the opacity the whole way off and then just build it up slowly and stop where I think it looks good. And I think right there, 25%. Let me shut this off. Here's before and here is after. And next I'll work on zone 3. So I'll come back and click on the button again for blend if, click on zone 3, and you can see the light areas that are zone 3. This time, I'm going to output to a brightness contrast adjustment. I'll hold my shift key down, click it, and there's my brightness contrast adjustment with blend if on it. And this time, I want to lighten up that zone, so I'm going to take the brightness slider and drag it to like right there, 15. And now I think I'll add a little contrast, so I'll drag the contrast slider to the right, to right there, plus 20. So let me shut this off. Here is before and here's after. Isn't that nice? It just targets zone 3. And now it's time for zone 4. So I'll click on the blend if button again and click on zone 4. I'll output to another brightness contrast. I'll hold my shift key down just so I apply blend if to that. And this time I want to darken that a little bit. So I'm going to drag this to the left to right there, minus 20. And then I want to really add a lot of contrast. So I'm going to drag this up to 75. So now let me shut this layer off. Here's before and here's after. I'm going to throw these 3 layers into a group. So the top brightness contrast is selected. I'm going to hold my shift key down and click right about here. That selects these 3 layers. And on my combo panel, I will click the right side of the group button, which will give me a group with a white mask. So now let me shut off my zones. Here is before the zonal adjustment, and here is after. But as you can see, that is a really nice adjustment. You got to try this out. The next thing I want to do is close off the sky, make it a little bit darker at the top. I really like the look of that on these type of images. So what I'll do is click on the curves adjustment layer button. We get a curves adjustment layer. I'll put a black mask on it by clicking this button. on the combo panel. I'll change the blend mode to multiply to darken, so I click that button on the combo panel. It's in the multiply blend mode, but you don't see a change because of the black mask. And now click on your gradient tool button and just use the new live gradient, not the old classic gradient. And I always like to click the drop down here and open up this basics folder here and click this one right here. That's white to black. And also make sure it's in reverse. If it's not in reverse, it'll be black to white, but you want it white to black, so click reverse. And you want the first gradient, which is your linear gradient. Make sure that's the one you're using. If not, just click on this button. And now I'm going to click and drag this down to right about here. You can hold your shift key down. See how that will constrain it? So it's going down straight to right about there. And then I'm going to take this diamond. We can adjust this. See how it changes that gradient? You see that? And I want to bring it down to maybe somewhere right about there. Now that's way too strong. And if you don't want to see this line, just click on the curves adjustment icon right here. And now what I want to do is lower that opacity. And I'm going to take it way down to like 20%. So now let me shut this layer off. Here's before and here's after. See how that just nicely closes off the top of the image. After every adjustment I make, I study the image and try to figure out what does it need. And as I look at the image, I'm thinking I'd like to bring up some of the weaker color. That will be a vibrance adjustment, but I'm going to use the saturation vibrance mask to help me target those areas. So I'm going to click this button. I always like to go through vibrance. Whenever you want to adjust vibrance, use the vibrance side, not the saturation side. So click on vibrance 1. Now, as you can see, that mask is very light. That would not give me the proper adjustment. It would give me too much saturation, which would not be good. So I'm going to keep going down. There's vibrance 3. Here's vibrance 4. And as I study the image, I think, yeah, these are the colors I want to bring up. See, it won't bring up that blue in the sky, which I don't want that to go up. And now I'll put this to a hue saturation adjustment layer. And now we can make an adjustment, and we have our mask just targeting the weaker colors. So I'm going to take the saturation, and I'm going to drag this to the right over to like right there, plus 55. Now let me shut this off. Here is before, and here is after. But there's some blue up in here. The sky is not being selected, but I'm going to go and click on blues, and I just want to drag that blue saturation back. I'll drag the saturation slider to the left over to about right here, a minus 27. It just tones some of that blue saturation down up here. It was getting too strong. So let me shut this off. Here is before and here's after. See how we bring out some nice saturation? Now, if you recall, I added soft pop. I'll shut this off. There's before and here is after. Brings out some nice detail, but I'd like to offset that a little bit with an Orton effect to add a little bit of glow on this image. Not much. I'll come to my TK actions and click on Orton effect, and a Gaussian blur dialog comes up, and you can change this, but I'll leave it where it is and click OK. And you're saying, Dave, what the heck are you doing here, man? Well, I'm going to fix this. It's way too strong, so I'm going to take the opacity of this group back to like 15%. Now let me shut off the Orton effect group. Here is before the Orton effect, and here's after. Just adds a nice little glow. And if I shut off soft pop, you can see I've lost my detail. But when I turn it back on, you can see the detail comes back. But I offset it with the Orton effect. So now I have a little bit of glow, but I still have some really nice detail here. We're getting near the end. Now I think this image needs a vignette. So on my TK actions, I'll click on my first vignette button, which is a basic vignette. I just accept the Gaussian blur for what it gives. I click OK, and I'm at 30% opacity, and I like that, but I want to protect my darkest tone, so I'm going to click on this button right here to go into Edit Blend Diff, and I'm going to click on No Darks 2. It protects the darkest darks, but, and I showed this last week, if you hold your Command or Control key down, you can get no darks anything. This was a tip Tony gave me, so I'm going to take this slider and hold the Command or Control key down. See how they go together? And I'm going to drag it over to like right here. And so now let me shut this layer off. Here's before and here's after. A nice little vignette, but you can't really tell it's there, but it really helps out. Now at this point of the edit, I always like to try like the color luminosity adjustment. And I did try it, and I did not like the results I get. Usually I love the results. This time I wasn't happy, so I figured I'm going to try the new TK Magic Mixer. So here's my TK Magic Mixer, and you notice I have the Loom checked on, so it will work with color. And then I click the Randomize button, so I'm going to click it, and you'll notice how the luminosity values of the image randomly change each time I click it. And when I found one that I really liked, I just stopped on that one. The other day when I made my initial edit for the TK Friday video, I ended up saving out the numbers here as a preset, and I'll show you. I'll apply it now, and I'll show you how you can apply a preset. Click this button and you will see all of your presets, and I chose this preset, the Peru edit. So I'll click on that, click the X here, and so that was what I came up with the Magic Mixer. Now let me shut this layer off. Here's before and here's after, but isn't that nice? I love the Magic Mixer, and it's great for black and white conversions as well as color. You could pick one up over at Tony Kuiper's web store, and it's only $10, so it's a really good value, and I highly recommend it. Now, that is the edit. Now, let's check out the overall before and after. So on my combo panel, I'll click this button to see the before. We started out here, and now we end up here, and I'm really happy with the way this edit turned out. And there it is, everyone. Another TK Friday comes to an end. I hate to see it go, but I hope you enjoyed today's edit. If you did, please give it a like and share it with your friends. And if you're not yet a subscriber to this channel, please subscribe. Click that bell notification icon. Click all so that you'll receive all notifications. And then every time I upload a new tutorial, you'll get notified about it. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining me today in the Joy of Editing with Dave Kelly. And I will see you all right here next time. But until then, happy editing.